Connecting to the cloud server. Okay, I think we are recording now.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. We would like to welcome you to our very first DRSF Zoom. My name is Jennifer. I'm our president and our treasurer, DRSF president and treasurer, and I am thrilled to be here this evening with none other than President Pam, who joins us as a panelist on our very first Zoom. Good evening, Pam.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. The light is still on, so I think we're doing all right. We did a live broadcast on Facebook earlier this week on Wednesday. Not sure if anybody caught it or joined us as we were bringing up some dogs from Puerto Rico. But we had touched a little bit on the fostering aspect. And like everybody else, you know, our world has changed around a little bit. Things are a little crazy. Everybody's jumping on this Zoom bandwagon. We didn't want to be left out. So we are taking the plunge tonight on our very first Zoom broadcast and wanted to take this opportunity to share a little bit more information about our foster program and provide a little bit of insight, little VIP behind the velvet rope on how the program works. So I will turn it over to President Pam, who knows the fostering program better than anyone, to share a little bit of info.
Hello, everybody. So one of the things that has happened with this coronavirus mess is that everybody wants to foster dogs or adopt dogs, which is really, really a lovely outcome of this horribleness. But one of the problems that has come with that is that not everybody that applies to be a foster, what they're looking for isn't exactly what we have to offer. And so we have disappointed a few people, which we don't like to do. And we try really hard to explain what the program is like. And people tend to still want to work it the way that they want to work it, which is understandable. They want it to work out in a way that is best for them. And that's obviously what we want also. So one of the biggest things that comes up with us and our foster program is people asking if they can foster to adopt, or assuming that if they apply to foster, they will get to pick the dog that they want to foster, generally from the dogs that are already on the website. The way that works is that most people, the people that foster, are matched up with dogs that have not even generally been introduced yet. They are the dogs that don't have anywhere to be yet. So they're either on their way to us from the shelter, on the way to us from Puerto Rico, or at the vet getting some kind of medical care, and that we haven't put them out there. By the time they make their way to our website, as far as pictures go and introductions go, they've already been placed in a foster home. And we don't, and we have had the question, well, can I just foster that dog? That dog is super cute. I'd really like that dog. And with everything that these dogs have gone through until they get to us, and some are better and worse than others, but with all of that, we're not going to then bounce them around. Once somebody settles in a foster home, we have them stay there until they're adopted. Obviously, unless there's some horrible misplacement. I try really hard to listen to the people that want to foster for us, and listen to who else is in their house and what other animals are in their house. And I try really hard to match people with dogs that will fit well. But when people go into this fostering with the idea that this is going to be the dog that they will keep, they tend to be more critical of the things that are not perfect about the dog. And that then ends up in, if their thought is okay, so now I've had this dog for 3 days and it's not perfect, and I don't think I want to adopt this dog, then they want to move on to a different dog rather than just working with who they have and making them the best that they can possibly be for the right adopter. So it's kind of a different mindset, and we want people to go into fostering with the mindset that you're taking in this dog to give them love and comfort and make them feel safe so that they can be the best dog that they can be for somebody else, not for you. And a lot of fosters do adopt, and that's fine. But when you go into it, when somebody goes into it with a different mindset of I'm just going to love this little thing until we can find another family for them. It's a whole different way that you go about it. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. It's it's a mindset going into it. It's incredible, and I know that we've talked about it a little bit, that it's amazing that so many people have come to the table in all of this.
Yeah.
And want to foster, and it is super important to us that people have a good experience.
Right. Right. And that's, what I do always with especially first time fosters is I make sure that I send them the easiest dog that we have. Because I want them to like it. I want it to be a good experience. The difficult dogs tend to either tend to come to me or to one of our vet techs or something like that. We don't, I don't send the difficult dogs out to first time fosters because we want it to be a look at what I did for this little dog so I can make room for another little dog. Not so much. It's kind of shifting the mindset of it not being so much about this specific person and their family, but more about helping the organization and the dogs that we take in.
Right. No, I mean, it's an incredible feeling. I've been involved with this for 10 plus years now at this point, and only in the last, maybe 5 years did I come off and, take the plunge into fostering. And pretty much at this point, I don't have, any dogs here of my own. They're all fosters. But I mean, there's no better feeling than, bringing a dog in, some of these dogs, these guys that just came from Puerto Rico, bringing them in, loving them, healing them, and seeing them go out the door. And it's, it's awesome that people are coming as far as, looking for adoption and wanting to foster. But then, I think the idea of sharing the information about how our program works is incredible. And we've got, while some people may be like, wow, geez, ooh, I don't know that that's the right program for me.
Right.
It's also super important too for us to know, I mean, how many prolific fosters, for lack of a better word, do we have?
Right. And we understand that the way that we run things may not be the right fit for every person. So if what we have to offer is not what will make you happy, there are every single foster-based rescue, which there are however many in South Florida, they all do it a little bit differently. So you just ask the right questions, and find out how, know what you want going into it. Because we don't want people being angry or upset or hurt or, any of those things. This is the happier we make the people, the happier the dogs are. And that's all that this is about.
And the more,
and we do have it. Right. And I do know that, like, my perception and even probably your perception and these other foster homes that you're talking about that have their own Facebook pages and have fostered 50 dogs, 100 dogs, I probably couldn't even count the number of foster dogs I've had here. I would venture in the 500 plus easily, at least over the last 6 years. It's got to be more than that. And I know that it's then different for me than it would be for somebody that hasn't had a dog since they were a child, and this is the first dog that's coming into their house. And I understand that. But I also don't want them to have an idea of what it's going to be like, that it's not going to be like that, and then they're going to be upset. In the end, the dogs are our responsibility. And so, the happier, like I said, the happier we can make the people that are taking care of these dogs for us, then the happier the dogs are going to be. And that is how that's why we are still doing this into our 11th year, because we try to keep all of our volunteers happy.
And that's why we're sitting here at 8:00 on a Sunday night making this video, is because it is that important to us, to get that information out. So before I forget, can we give a shout out to those prolific foster homes? We've got AJ and all of these homes you can follow on Facebook. Some of them are on Instagram.
Some are
on Facebook. We've got AJ and the Weenies.
Yes.
Oasis, Wigglebutt Resort,
Adoption Couture.
Who else?
Sully's Dog House.
Sully's Dog House. Who are we forgetting?
I think that is.
Those are the biggies. So what? Olson's Oasis just celebrated 50 dogs.
Right.
And who was 80? Somebody just crossed the 80 mark.
I think that Wigglebutt was 50, and I think Olson's Oasis was 80. And I know that AG and the Weenies is well over 100 because they often do more than one at a time.
Yeah.
So some of the and Sully, they have to be. I don't know that they keep count, but they have.
Right. They've been with us a super, super long time too.
Yeah, so they have to be close to 100, you know, between 50 and 100 at this point too. And it definitely, you know, it's funny because people sometimes think that it just gets easier as you go. And I find, you know, 2 weeks ago I cried about a dog that left here, and it broke my heart to have that dog leave here. And so there are just some that are different. And it isn't always just the ones that are super sick or super scared or whatever, and then we bring them back. And sometimes those are the ones that I'm happiest to see go. It just, you know, it just kind of depends on how I bond with them. And the fear, you know, you went through this recently also. You know, sometimes you're like, okay, you got to go. And then, you know, and then other ones, right. And then there are other ones that you're like, yeah, could you, you know, not rip my heart out of your chest, as, you know, out of my chest as you get into the car. So, you know, it really depends on the dog. So sometimes it's easy. And sometimes it's really, really hard. But, you know, we try really hard to support our fosters as much as we can, and keep those expectations. You know, we have trainers, and we have the medical team, and we have all of our transporters, and we just don't have the emotional support sometimes. But a lot of that can be managed better with good communication. And tell me what's going on, what you're feeling. If you really don't think you want to let the dog go, we got to know before we have an adopter for them.
Before that adopter's on their way to their house.
On their way to the house, yes. Yeah, I mean, because our adopters are also very important to us, and they adopt a dog, and then they tell their friend, and so on and so on and so on, and that's how we continue. And so it just doesn't, we want to make sure that everybody is happy with the process. And obviously that's unrealistic that we can't make everybody happy. But we certainly want, we want to try. But knowing, I think that going into this, thinking about helping the organization as a whole, rather than being on a search for your next dog, is a good way to approach it. And people that are open to adopting a dog, generally they at some point do run into the dog that should stay, but if you're worried about it being the first dog you get, it's not likely going to happen, and you're not going to be happy with the process.
Right. No, and I know, we get this question so many times in, DMs, a lot more since all this Corona stuff started, and it's super hard to answer, and like this amount of space, and be like, no, that's not quite how it works, but let me explain how it works. And
Right. Well, or even why they can't go to the vet and meet 6 different dogs and pick the one they want to foster. That's just not how it goes. There are so many pieces to this of, some people can't have another boy dog in their house. Some people, there are different reasons why we choose certain fosters for certain dogs. And it's not about going and hand picking who you think is the cutest at that moment. It's about who will be a good fit for your environment at the time, and who needs a spot. We as a team work really hard to try to make sure that it is a good match. And we save 500 dogs a year, around, somewhere between 450 and 500 dogs every year. And if I get asked twice a year to move a foster, that's a lot. And the reason is because we work really, really hard to make that match as good as we then make their next step match, because we want everybody.
Doctors on the back end. Yeah.
Everybody be happy.
Right, because all of our lives are so much happier when everybody is happy. So,
Yes.
I mean, we've been at this for what, 10 years now. So
Yep.
we're always, always open to learning and always open to finding a better way to do something. But, all in all, we've been at it for this long. So we're doing something we're doing is working. So, how do we do that communication thing to share out the method to the madness so people can read or watch, understand, and so they have a good experience with rescue? Because the last thing we want is to somebody come away from the process and be like, oh my God, it was the worst. Like, I'm just going to buy a dog.
Right. Right. And that, and ultimately I think that's the most important thing, but the why we don't do foster to adopt is the biggest. I think that we get that question more than anything.
Yeah.
And the reason is because ultimately what will happen is that dog will not be the dog that they want to adopt, and then they will ask to move the dog. And so then it's bouncing dogs from foster home to foster home.
It just starts the dominoes falling in the opposite direction from
right. And it's,
to go.
Yeah, and it's just not in the best interest of the dog. And so we don't do that. And that's, and when you go into it thinking, okay, that dog's super cute, about the age and and so you think okay, this is going to be the dog I'm going to adopt, and then it's not. There's nothing wrong with the dog. It's just that it's not the dog you want to have for the next 15 years. And so then people, when that decision comes that they don't want to adopt that dog, then they want the dog moved because it's not right. And then it just goes, and they don't want the dog there. And then all of a sudden we have behavior problems and then we've created this, and we're not going to put a dog in boarding because the foster decided that they didn't want to adopt the dog. So
it's a great dog. It's just not their great dog.
Right. So when you come at it with a different opinion, a different mindset of, I am going to help whatever dog needs me right now. Yeah. And we will find them their home. And, and our average time in foster care is what?
45 days.
Right, which is probably down now, right?
And, keep in mind, like that's a mathematical average going back to 2008 with dogs that have been in foster care for like 2+ years, and not that I keep track of it, but just throwing it out there.
Right. So, and just as a general fostering, just so you know, DRSF covers the cost of everything except for food. Fosters, that's the only cost that they incur, is the food for the dog. We send beds and blankets and harnesses and leashes, and we cover all medical and heartworm and flea medication, and we provide transportation if they need a ride somewhere. So it financially isn't the burden. It's more of are you emotionally okay to love a dog and see them kind of evolve into a good dog for somebody else, and are you able to let them go then?
To love them enough to love them out the door to make room for the next one.
Because there is always a next one, except for right now. There's always a next one.
But we can still help ones from Puerto Rico. So
we can. Yes. So,
excellent.
Okay. Anything else you should add here?
No. I think we covered it all. I think that's a good overview. Okay. I believe we've survived our first Zoom. I still seem to be intact. You seem to be intact.
Seem to be.
Hit stop record on this. We're going to cross our fingers and hope there's a video in the cloud. Okay. What could possibly go wrong?
I cannot imagine.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
If we didn't mess this up, hopefully there will be more. Take care. Stay safe out there.